There is a moment in manifestation that many people overlook, not because it's rare, but because it's quiet. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It doesn't feel like a dramatic realization. And yet, it often marks the point where the state has truly settled. It's the moment you realize you're no longer trying. And in fact, you may just miss it if you're not paying attention. Earlier in the process, manifestation usually feels active. Your mind is involved. You're adjusting assumptions, paying attention to your reactions, watching your inner dialogue. You might remind yourself of the identity you're stabilizing. You notice when old thinking appears. You consciously return to the version of yourself you've chosen. All of that attention is normal in the beginning because you're learning how to move out of one identity and into another. At first, the shift requires awareness, but something interesting begins to happen as the state stabilizes. The effort starts fading. You stop correcting every thought. You stop analyzing every emotional response. You stop trying to feel a certain way. Instead, you begin responding to life more naturally. For example, imagine someone who spent months working on the assumption that they are confident and respected. Earlier in the process, they were very aware of their inner dialogue. They monitored their thoughts carefully. They practiced speaking differently. They rehearsed situations in their mind. But eventually something changes. They walk into a room and speak without overthinking. They share an idea without mentally rehearsing it first. They stop wondering how others perceive them, not because they forced confidence, but because confidence quietly became part of their identity. The effort disappeared. The same shift often happens with financial stability. At first, someone may constantly remind themselves that they are responsible with money. They challenge old habits. They question anxious thoughts. They deliberately choose new perspectives. But over time, the mental effort fades. They make decisions calmly. They trust their judgment. They move through financial situations without the old tension. And one day, they notice something subtle. They aren't trying anymore. They're simply living. This is the moment many people misunderstand. Because when the effort disappears, the mind sometimes assumes something is wrong. You might briefly think, am I forgetting to do the work? Should I be visualizing again? Should I go back to affirmations? But that reaction usually comes from habit. Your mind became used to managing the process. Now the process no longer needs that management. Think about learning how to drive. In the beginning, every movement requires attention. You watch the mirrors. You monitor your speed. You check your position in the lane. Your mind is actively involved in every decision. But eventually something changes. You start driving while thinking about other things. You navigate familiar roads automatically. You didn't lose the skill. The skill integrated. The same thing happens with the manifesting state. At first, you consciously stabilize the identity. But once the state settles, life begins flowing from that identity naturally. You're no longer performing the state. You're living from it. And living from the state doesn't require constant effort. It feels normal, calm, almost ordinary, which is exactly why the moment can be easy to overlook, because nothing dramatic happens. But internally, everything has changed. You're no longer maintaining the identity. You are the identity. And when that happens, reality begins reflecting it in ways that feel effortless. Not because you forced anything to happen, but because the effort is no longer necessary. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.